Can you take a drone into Mexico? That is the question coming up. And if you're new here, welcome. I'm Christine, and this is Create with CL, where I give away all of my secrets on what goes behind being a travel creator. And one of my tools is my drone. I came to Mexico for the entire month of November 2020, and I found it really difficult to find answers online about bringing a drone into Mexico. So in this week's video, I wanted to share with you what my experience has been like, give you all of the info that I learned, and also share some experiences that I have had. So if videos like this interest you, consider subscribing. I'm gonna break down this video about what it was like traveling into Mexico with my drone, as well as what was the general vibe like, as well as some rules that I followed that I found online, and lastly, some really annoying things about flying a drone in Mexico. Almost as annoying as having to drink this red wine out of this type of a glass. But I digress. Let's start with flying to Mexico with your drone, because I wasn't sure if I was gonna get pulled aside by security, because for different reasons, I was pulled aside. So on multiple sides, I've had a problem with my mosquito candle, including at immigration. But that was because I was traveling to Cancun Airport and Tulum, Mexico, where you get eaten alive by mosquitoes. And it was my mosquito candle, my citronella candle, that was getting me pulled aside. I've flown a million times with my drones within the US. And if you need tips on that, check out my video in the description below. But this was my first time flying abroad with it. And flying into Mexico, it was no problem. I did not get pulled aside for it, nor did they flag it, nor did they ask me any questions. And so it felt like just another piece of electronics that was flying with me. Let's jump to what the general vibe was like flying a drone in Mexico, because I wasn't sure if this was going to be a novel thing and people were going to be like, oh, a drone, and it was going to be something that made a scene. Which, by the way, if you're getting some value out of this video, cheers that like button and consider subscribing. Whew. Tell me in the comments below if you have any tips for flying in Mexico, because again, this was a hard question for me to answer, and I'm just sharing with you what I learned and what my experience has been. One of the things that I noticed is that people were very nonplussed about a drone in Mexico. In other words, I feel like sometimes when I fly in the US, even though every time I try to fly really discreetly, in other words, I try not to fly around people, I try not to be in crowded areas, etc. But in Mexico, no one cared about a drone. And so no one really cared that I was out there traveling by myself and flying a drone. And I actually think that's a great thing, because it's not really something you want to draw a lot of attention to yourself about, especially because there might be a lot of pickpocketing and crime in the areas that I've been going in. On that great note, let's talk about the general rules that I followed. I put the most helpful article that I found in the description below, but a couple of the rules that I followed were things like, I knew that I needed to check the drone maps just like I always do. I knew things like over the archaeological ruins, I knew I wouldn't be able to fly. Near airports, I wouldn't be able to fly. These were general things that I just knew. But aside from that, I really didn't do anything else, and I really didn't have a problem except the annoying things. So let's talk about that. So I want to share with you 3 pretty annoying stories that happened to me, and my goal here is just to make you aware of what the situation is so that you can know what to expect or plan ahead, or just hope that the same thing doesn't happen to you. The first one is I was trying really hard to, make sure I followed the rules. I didn't fly anywhere near an airport, but what happened in this experience looked like this. Here I want to show you the best shots of Tulum, including a sunset of this awesome sky happening tonight. But my problem is that Tulum is right next to an airport, and I need to bike super far out of town to be able to get these shots. And it's not looking so pretty out here, and there's a ton of amazing traffic. So do I get the shots? Do I keep going? I think it's time to turn around. This is where I really wanted to fly. It's a nice open field. It's enclosed. It wouldn't bother the people that lived right outside. I wouldn't be standing on the middle of the street in the middle of traffic with tons of bikes and taxis and sirens and policemen going by. I could just post up somewhere and quietly fly my drone without bothering anyone, but this is not in a fly zone. And oh my goodness, look at this light. And so my tip for you is just to be aware of where you're trying to fly. Make sure you're checking your drone maps in advance, and maybe location scouting, I have a video on that, to find where you might want to go specifically to fly, being in the fly zones. My second annoying story for you is about prices and how they fluctuate and vary. And so this is what that looked like.
This is something about Mexico that kind of drives me crazy about the prices, is that they will charge whatever they want. And then they also do additional things, like if you have a drone or if you have a GoPro, they'll charge you a different price, and it's definitely not published. It's based off of how they feel and how you look and what they can gauge off of you. And so while it's tempting to bring my drone in for this shot, meh, I'm good.
So this was an annoying example because video in the description below in case you're going to Tulum. Prices basically just vary on how many marshmallows that the person got in their Lucky Charms that morning. It varies. And so they don't post the prices, which means you just don't know how much you're going to pay until you go to the front, and they're basically sizing you up to determine how much they're going to try to charge you. And so at that cenote, I didn't even bother trying to fly my drone. However, at the next cenote that I went to, they did allow me to fly my drone. And it's because I had a Spanish-speaking guide who was very friendly, and they were very friendly at the cenote. And so they were able to work it out where they were like, as long as she's quick, she can fly her drone. And boom, I got my flight in. But while I was doing it, someone else still came up and tried to get me to pay them money on the side, which was a very complicated thing to talk in Spanish about while you're flying a drone into a cenote. So just be aware, those are some of the things that happened to me, and hopefully they do not happen to you. This last story is probably the most annoying one to me, in which there's a clearly posted sign about the drone rules.
They can make up whatever laws that they want and follow them or not follow them. And so there's clear drone laws around here around how you can't fly, but there are rules around how you can. But after talking to the guy at the front, he's making up his own rules, so no flying today.
In this example, it was at Sian Khan, which is just outside of Tulum. So beautiful. I really wanted to fly there. And on that day, they just didn't feel like following their own rules. And so while it's tempting to post the photo of the guy who was yelling at me in Espanol about how I could not fly my drone because he didn't feel like helping me out that day, it's just an experience that I had that, again, hopefully you do not have, but that was what happened to me. Flying your drone in Mexico. If you have more tips for me, put them in the comments below. I'd love to know. I'd also really like an actual wine glass in my hotel room. I'm Christine. I hope this video has been helpful. I'm here every week with new videos. I hope to see ya in the next one. Ciao.